Our affirmation today, I define my own abilities. How many of you ever set out to do something and had somebody say to you, no, you can't do that? And you just sort of sheepishly turn away and think, oh gosh, I would have liked to. This, unfortunately, is letting other people define our abilities. And when we let somebody else define our abilities, we let them control us. When you're able to do what it is that you want to do, and you're able to do what you expect of yourself, you certainly are moving on that path of life in a much richer and rewarding way than if you do stop and let other people dictate your achievements and what it is that you can and can't do. And along with that, of course, we know in our faith that what we do and how we achieve our goals and the things that we want to achieve in life, we do through the power and the presence of God. Having God in our life and having that presence and power guide us and direct us to our highest place is a very, very important element. One thing that I note that I see even in all factors of my life are people limiting themselves in their own achievements by their thoughts. If we know that our thoughts can change our reality, then we certainly have to realize that the power of our words, our actual spoken words, have an incredible impact on our reality. Oftentimes, I'll even hear after church on Sunday, I'll overhear snippets of conversation, and I'll hear somebody mention, well, I can't afford that now, or maybe one day if I get the money. And who here, who is a New Thought student in our faith, what do you think the results of that kind of speaking are going to be? So we know through our teaching the power of our thoughts. Don't let a foul word pass over your lips, because that creates the reality that you're living in. And certainly nobody wants to be in that situation. A few weeks ago, I have a friend who broke her foot in some incident. I don't recall the specifics. But at the time, she didn't understand the process of going through to file for state disability because she couldn't work, because she couldn't walk. And she began experiencing some financial challenges, and she had related to me that she was waiting. She was just waiting for her disability payments to come through, and you know, she was having a bit of a hard time. Luckily, she wasn't being horribly negative about it. She was somewhat prosperous thinking about it. And she relayed the story to me how one day she was bored and she got in her crutches and went down the street, and she happened to be invited into a little church. And so she went and sat and she listened to the message. Near the end, during the collection, you know, she dug out, she probably had about $1.50 in quarters that she put in the collection plate. And later that afternoon, she went to visit a friend, and this friend knew about her challenges, and he had been doing this kind of eccentric thing of saving up dollar bills. Whenever he came home with change that was dollar bills, he'd save them all up for an upcoming vacation. And he'd gone on the vacation and found it was such a nuisance to unroll them and to use dollar bills, he never used them anyways. So when she came to visit, he knew about this challenge, and he was able to give her, you know, a couple $100s. So certainly we see there a New Thought principle. I mean, that was like an immediate, you know, she gave not expecting, not knowing, and then out of the blue, this need of hers was met to get her through this dry period until her check came through. And a lot of that has come, I believe, because I've known this person for a while, and whenever I'm around people, we don't proselytize in our faith, so I'm not really beating the Bible or anything, but certainly all of us can talk and share the news about positive thinking and positive words and living through your words and your deeds, living a life of good examples so that people understand this. So that was really heartwarming to me, that I could see firsthand the effect that I have and that all of us can have. And so I see in that, I'm not limited in my achievements by anything that anyone would say, because, and I should preface that by hearing from a lot of people that it doesn't matter what you say. You know, there are people who are negative. You're never going to change them. You're never going to change them. And of course, you're probably not going to be able to overtly walk up to them and, you know, clobber them over the head with our New Thought principles and think it's going to take effect the next day. It is a long process of people being exposed to this and seeing through example how you live your life, and see that you live a life of great serenity. There's not a lot of anxiety or upset in your life. And in doing so, people do pick that up, and they begin to experience these wonderful, wonderful laws that we know exist in life, and that being, of course, the law of prosperity. So as you're going through your week, you want to ask yourself this question: is this expectation of my life the expectation of myself or somebody else's expectation of me? Because we all find ourselves in that situation where somebody will come to us and say, no, you can't do that. And of course, nobody wants to hear that. We want to be able to do what we want to do when we want to do it, within means, of course. And I have to certainly sit back and count it a blessing, because there were times early on when I came to this new role in the fellowship, and I don't think I heard that from a soul. Nobody said, no, you can't do that, John, which is very, very comforting, because as a lot of you know, I had a lot of certainly concerns. It was a big pair of shoes to fill in. So definitely, I had to define my own abilities. And when we say that, we define our own abilities. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go and climb Mount Kilimanjaro tomorrow. You can define your own abilities, and you're possibly going to take your time getting to that place to fulfill it. But just because it doesn't happen the first time, don't listen to the naysayers. Don't let other people tell you how to live your life, or don't let other people define your abilities, because only you know your abilities, and you know what you're capable of and how to get there. And through our New Thought teaching, we know that with the power and the presence of God, we do have within us the power to certainly meet all of the abilities that we set out for ourselves, meet all the goals, all the challenges. So again, as you're going through your week, ask yourself, as you're doing your things, as you're doing your chores, or you're at work, or all the circumstances and situations that we find ourselves in a week, is this an obligation that I am doing because this is what I've set for myself, or have I lowered my expectations because somebody else said to me, no, you can't do what it is that you set out to do? And if you find yourself in that situation, reconnect with the power of presence of God. Take a few moments and meditate, or repeat some of the affirmations that we use in our fellowship to restore in you that faith in yourself, that yes, you are the person who's going to establish your abilities, and that is where you're going to live in life. And the good news is that through the power of meditation and affirmations, and certainly prayer, we're big advocates of prayer, the power of prayer. We know in our fellowship, and certainly in all phases of life, that there is nothing to parallel the power of prayer to meet a need or a desire. So when you think about your abilities in life, am I living my set abilities, and you think there's a challenge, go into prayer, go into that place with God, just like we talked about earlier during our meditation. When we quiet ourselves, we become open and receptive to that guidance and that direction from God. In those moments is when you'll get the answers, how it is that you're going to live the life that you can, with yourself defining your abilities, no one else. I wanted to also just reiterate our scripture lesson today, which I thought was very appropriate. Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and your plans will succeed. So as you're going through the week and you're concerned about whose expectations you're living, yours or someone else's, remember that if you have committed your expectations and you're doing it hand in hand with the presence and the power of God, you will succeed. And that's the good news, that we have that option in our faith tradition to always succeed in all of the abilities and all of our goals. So as you go through the week, keep that in mind and live our affirmation, which is, I define my own abilities. So as you're going through the week, say that, I define my own abilities. Nobody else gets to define your abilities.